everybody. Welcome to another episode of Stories and Stuff. My name is Jenny Q. My co-host Willie is off to the side. He's chilling out off screen. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he is. And I'll explain why in a second. If this is your first episode or first time ever visiting us, welcome. We're so happy to have you. If you're come back and you're a friend, so glad you're here. We always love sharing our time with you. So Stories and Stuff is just exactly that. We take some time every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to come and share some stories and some stuff. So this week, what we've been doing is we've been doing a theme called Picture This. And what Picture This is we've invited you guys to send in photographs, not tell us much about them, and then we would write a story, and then we're sharing the stories. And we started this yesterday with Megan, and Megan sent in an amazing picture, amazing photograph, and we discovered that it was all about a couple of ballerina princesses. And if you want to know about that, you can watch yesterday's episode. Today's episode is inspired by our friend Susan McBride and her two grandchildren. And I have to show you this absolutely adorable picture that she sent in. And this is the picture that she sent in. So those are her grandchildren, Harry and Layla. Harry and Layla, yeah, so if you're watching, guys, you totally inspired me. And the story that I wrote about them is a little bit longer than what yesterday's was. So most of today is going to be spent reading the story. It's going to be so much fun. So because it is a little bit longer, guys, I totally invite you to find a spot, get comfortable, close your eyes, and just listen to the story. You're, of course, welcome to watch me read the story, of course, but it might be a little more enjoyable if you could sit back and you can see all the different things that we're talking about. So the title of this story for Picture This for day 2 for Wednesday is the Four Smiles, not the Four Stories, the Four Smiles. Hey, don't forget. Oh, right. Willie wants me to let you know, don't worry, he's coming. He's got some stuff for you, but we want to try and keep this episode fairly short so you can get to the rest of your day as well. Okay, are we ready for story time, guys? Oh, Susan's here. Susan, I'm so glad you're here. I am about to share the story of the Four Smiles inspired by your grandchildren. Okay, here we go. The Four Smiles. Harry and Layla love to play. They love to dress up, and they love to be colorful, and they love to do all sorts of things, like drawing and singing and using their imagination. The reason they are so full of love and creativity is that they are children. Two of the most extraordinary children you will ever know. One day they met Gus at the park. It was a beautiful sunny summer day. The breeze was blowing and the sun was high. Harry was smiling. "Welcome to my kingdom," he proclaimed as he opened his arms wide to demonstrate the vastness of his kingdom. "I am so happy that you're here. You must join me and be the princess of the trees and the queen of the ants. I shall be the prince of the plants and flowers and the king of the squirrels. We must look after these fine creatures and make sure that they are safe and that they are loved and have adventures." "Yes, your majesty." Layla's eyes glistening with excitement. She smiled. She always smiles. She has this beautiful and sweet smile that lights up wherever she happens to be. Layla and Harry are more than the king of the squirrels and queen of the ants. They are family. They are brother and sister, 7 and 5 years old, respectively. One day, while walking through their kingdom to check on their subjects on the ground and high in the trees and in between, the two noticed a grumpy-looking man sitting on a bench. This man's name is Gus. Now, Gus is a good-looking guy. He wore a beautiful, shiny businessman's set of shoes, a gray fitted suit with a sharp white shirt, and a blue tie. His hair, tidy and sculpted to just the right style, locked in with gel that made it look as though his hair was still wet, despite the fact he had his shower hours earlier. The one thing Gus was missing was a smile, and when Harry saw this, he walked a little bit closer towards Gus, and he said, "Hi," and he smiled. Gus lifted his eyes for just a moment to see who was speaking. He nodded and returned his gaze back to the sidewalk and the thoughts that consumed his attention, essentially ignoring Harry and unable to muster even a hello in response. Harry walked back to join his place next to Layla, and the two continued their inspection of their kingdom. They continued to take care of the ants and the grass and the trees, and at the end of their playday, Layla hugged the 3 of her favorite trees and whispered into their bark, as though they were the ears of the trees, "I love you." And as they walked home, Harry would reach up and high-five the mighty maple, oak, and pine trees which he would pass every day. "See you tomorrow, dudes." They came back the next day. Again, around the same time, mid-afternoon, Gus was back. Today he was wearing a dark blue suit with a light blue shirt and a gray tie loosened and the 2 top buttons of his shirt undone. Again, Gus was missing his smile. Walking past Gus, Harry reached out and took the Queen's hand, squeezing it softly to gain her attention while slightly tugging her towards him. And the Queen understood, and she followed him under some shade under one of the mighty maple trees of their kingdom. "Your Highness," he addressed Layla. "Your Majesty," Layla replied with a smile, burning curiosity and a twinkle in her eye. "We must come up with an idea to help this poor, poor person." Layla nodded. It was her turn to pull the king in the direction she was inspired to go. He followed. She led them back to a bench with a beautiful woman. A woman with stylish, short, red hair, a colorful blouse with teals and blues, accented with orange and yellow flowers. On the collar of her blouse was a beautiful pin of an angel. Her fingers all decorated with an assortment of rings from plain to bold, and she was reading a book. She was smiling. Next to her on the ground was a bag, full of things. That is where Layla was heading, and Harry knew exactly what she was doing. The woman with the smile looked up. "Hey, you two, what are you up to?" "Oh, we just need to grab something from the bag, okay, Grandma?" "Of course." And with that, the beautiful woman with the red hair continued to smile as she returned her attention to her book, while through the corner of her eye she watched Harry and Layla grab what they wanted from the bag. The two went off into the forest, which was 3 of their favorite trees in this urban park, and they sat in their royal spots, their favorite spots under their favorite trees, and they pulled out 2 small, fleecy and flannel-type blankets, one for the king and one for the queen. Harry spoke. "Are you prepared to wear the blankets of the bounty?" "Yes, Your Majesty." They placed the blankets on their heads. They closed their eyes, and they stroked their heads, feeling the soft brushed fleece under their little fingers and above their closed eyes. Layla could imagine her fingers floating across the blue and pink bunnies that were on her blanket of bounty. Harry, his blanket, was a bit fancier and had clouds decorated with sparkly fabric that was a distinct contrast to the soft fleece that surrounded it. Each time his fingers were tickled by the sparkle, Harry would smile, knowing it was a rainbow he was touching. They opened their eyes for a moment, and they looked at each other. They asked the question out loud, "How can we help this man?" They repeated it over and over, almost a whisper, like a chant. And then they closed their eyes again. They kept repeating the question, and they reached out and they held each other's hands. A few minutes later, both began to giggle, and their eyes popped open at the same time. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Harry asked his sister. "I think so. Okay, let's go." They removed their blankets of bounty from their heads, and they tied it around their neck like capes. They grabbed hands, smiled, and ran back as fast as they could to the bench where their grandma was still reading her book. "Can we please go home? We want to do some crafts." Once they were home, they pulled out the most beautiful, bright white paper they could find. They pulled out their best markers, and they pulled out popsicle sticks, and they pulled out all sorts of glitter glue, ribbons, and scissors. They filled their afternoon creating, fueled by their imagination and on a mission to help poor, poor Gus. The next day, they were up early and decided that today was going to be a day to celebrate and sparkle. Being the king and the queen of Exhibition Park in Guelph, Ontario, they knew that they must dress for the part. Today, they knew it was going to be special. After breakfast, the 2 royal figures opened their closet and pulled out beautiful clothes, adorned with sequins, bright colors, and pink tulle tutus, which defy gravity, and purple feathery parts and 2 soft fleece jackets. His Majesty wearing a white jacket with an array of happy and silly yellow emoji faces. Her Majesty wearing a white jacket with rainbows and colorful stars. So different, yet they matched. When they returned to the park, sure enough, that afternoon on the same bench sat Gus. Today he was wearing a black suit, another white shirt, his jacket draped across one knee while a red tie drooped over the other. Gus was bent over, holding his head in his hands, supported by his arms, which were propped up on his knee, and still staring at the gray pathway resting between his beautiful shiny shoes. He seemed deflated. Layla was nervous as she twirled the 2 popsicle sticks in her hands behind her back. "Come on," encouraged Harry with a wave and a smile as he walked towards Gus. They walked up to Gus, stood still for a moment to see if he noticed them. He didn't. Harry nudged his sister. "Excuse me," Layla said softly. "Yeah," Gus replied without even lifting his eyes or head to address the kids. Stuttered Layla. Harry stepped closer and mustered his most commanding king voice. "We just wanted to give you something. Is that okay, mister?" Gus kind of shook his head and sat up to see these 2 children standing before him. He realized immediately that these 2 children were very unusual. He took in the royal apparel of sequins, fluff, tutus, and face paint. Layla had a black dot on her nose and black whiskers, and there was pink, purple, and green glitter on her cheeks. She was also wearing that beautiful and constant smile. Gus turned his attention to Harry, who also had whiskers with blue and purple glitter highlighting his cheeks. They bookended a smile that was just as intoxicating and enticing as Layla's. Harry was also wearing a top with large and more bold sequins of green, blue, and pink, and a very impressive pink tutu. Gus finally reined in his attention into the moment, into the present. His full attention was now captured by the king and the queen. He noticed that both of these children were hiding something behind their backs. Curiosity slipped into Gus's mind and was expressed through his words of, sure? More of a question than a yes. Harry and Layla giggled. "Well, mister, we noticed the last few days that you've been here in our kingdom. We noticed that you seem to have forgotten your smile," Harry began. "We made you some extras," Layla explained. Gus subtly shook his head. Gus did not understand what they were talking about, and he decided to keep listening because his curiosity was fully in control. Out from behind their backs, Layla and Harry produced 4 incredible, unique smiles on popsicle sticks, like puppets, but just a smile. They demonstrated as they held up all 4 smiles. "Well," Layla said, "we didn't know which smile you had lost, so we created 4 for you." Harry continued, "That's right." And as he held up the first smile, Gus saw it was timid and shy, but definitely a smile with closed lips and a soft turn of the corners of its mouth. "This smile is for when you want to be polite and let people know you really are a little bit happy. So this is your polite smile. This is for you." Gus accepted the smile and rested it on his lap, next to his tie. Layla took a half step closer to Gus. "This smile is your giggle smile." And she held up a big smile with red lips, big teeth, and an orange tongue that sat in behind. It almost looked as if she had pulled it off the face of a clown and stuck it on a popsicle stick, placing it in front of her face, like this, she demonstrated. Handing Gus the giggle smile, she added, "Oh, and by the way, you have to giggle when you use this smile, otherwise it doesn't work." Back to Harry, who was all ready to share the 3rd smile. The smile was actually a smirk, and he held it up to his own face to model it. The smile was sort of sideways, and the base of the smile was to the left, and the thin part of the lips were to the right, and it was definitely smiling. The lips were blue and pressed together, with no teeth showing in front of it, and no teeth showing. Still in front of his face, Harry detailed the instructions for Gus. "A smirk is when you want to let someone you like know you like their joke, but not too much. You want them to know it is funny, even though you do not think it's that funny, but it's still a little bit funny, so you still have to share a smile. You got a smirk." He handed Gus his smirk. Gus rested the smirk in between the first 2 smiles, which were resting on his lap. He watched as Layla took one more step towards him. She was so close that the edge of her tutu tickled the black pant leg of Gus's suit in the warm summer breeze. She twirled the last popsicle stick between her fingers. With purpose and pride, Layla locked eyes with Gus and then spoke. "Here, this is your smile." She held up the smile. It was gentle. Everything was balanced and even, a few teeth showing. Something about this last smile was powerful. Just looking at it, Gus felt the edges of his own mouth start to twitch. "This is your smile. I made it so it could fold. Look." And in her tiny hands, she demonstrated how the edges of the lips had creases in the paper, allowing her to fold the smile so it was more of a rectangular shape than a smile. After folding it up, she looked at Gus and slipped it into his right pocket of his dress shirt. "This one fits in your pocket, so if you don't feel like smiling, you will always have a smile with you, wherever you go. Because you know what, mister?" Layla asked as she stepped back to stand beside Harry. "There's always a reason to smile. So when you can't find yours, you can pull your smile out of your pocket. We hope you like your smiles." Gus didn't know what to say. He looked at the kids, unable to find words or to understand what had just happened. Harry and Layla waved, joined hands, and walked away giggling and zigzagging between trees and the gardens of their kingdom. Layla looked back once more to wave at Gus and share her smile with him one last time. "See you later," they both shouted, and then they were gone. Gus looked at the 3 popsicle stick smiles sitting in his lap. He pulled his smile out of his pocket. He played with the edges, flapping them back and forwards, transforming the smile into a rectangle and then back into a smile. He did this a few times. The funny thing was, as he held it up to his face, he felt his own lips try to rise and mimic the paper template of a smile. He lay it down away from his face, and as soon as he did, his lips returned to a grimace and being dragged back towards the pathway in his shiny shoes. He didn't understand why. What was making him so sad? Maybe he didn't need to focus on that, Gus thought. Maybe he just needed to focus on practicing with his paper smile. And so he lifted it back to his face, and like a marionette whose strings control their body, as soon as the paper smile was in front of his own, his lips started to mirror the shape of the smile, with his lips rising and stretched across his teeth. He dropped the paper smile again, but this time his smile on his face stayed for a moment. And he kept repeating this over and over for about 10 minutes. And then all he had to do was think of Layla and Harry and their royal clothes and their face paint, giving him these 4 smiles, and magically his own smile on his face would surface and stay put. He even caught himself giggling out loud for the first time in a long time. The end. So I know, guys, that was a really long one today, but it is what got inspired, and that's the thing with creative writing. You never know how short or how long your piece will be. And so the first picture that inspired that was this photo. So there are the bounty blankets that started the whole story. And so that was the first picture. Now, the second picture that inspired the second part of the story is this little one. And here is Harry and Layla all dressed up, because they really do like to dress up and be sparkly and be very amazing and colorful and wonderful children. So thank you guys for that. And I know that Willie has some stuff he wants to share with you, and it's connected to kings. So if you're all about kings and that sort of thing, stick around for one more minute while he shares a couple of jokes with you guys. Let me give him a hug and a snug, and he'll be right here. Hang on. Oh, Jenny, that was amazing. I love that story. Oh, well, thank you, Willie. You know you helped write it. Yeah, I know. But you are the writer, and I am the adventurer. Yes, that is true. Hi, guys. Hi. So good to see you. Okay, it is my turn, and I only have a minute. And so I need to tell you my jokes. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. Okay, do you guys know who King Arthur is? I don't know. Do you guys? He's a very well-known king, and he had a round table. He sure did. And you know what? I want to ask you, do you know who designed King Arthur's round table? Who designed his table? Yeah. His name was Sir Cumference. Circumference is the one who designed the round table. Oh, Willie, you're so funny. Do you have any other jokes? Yeah, I wrote them down. Can you pass them to me? Yeah. Did you forget them? Yeah, I kind of did. Okay. 1 second. Okay, I'm ready, guys. Just remember, practice. Okay. When is a piece of wood like a king? When is a piece of wood like a king? When it's a ruler? Okay, I think we have time for one more joke. One more joke. Are you guys ready for a joke? Okay, here comes the last joke. Are you ready? I think they're ready. I think they're listening. Okay. Why did King Arthur go to the dentist? King Arthur went to the dentist? Yeah, he wanted to get his teeth crowned. You really do love your jokes, don't you? Yeah, I really do. Okay, well, there's a riddle, but we'll save that one for tomorrow. How does that sound? That sounds like a great idea. It does sound like a great idea. So guys, we really want to thank you for sticking around for so long today. We really hope you enjoyed the story inspired by Susan's grandchildren, and that you enjoyed the 4 smiles. And so as we end off today, we just want to say to you, yeah. It's important for you guys to share your love, your smiles, and share your laughter with each other. Absolutely, guys. Thanks for coming by, and we'll see you tomorrow with our last Picture This story for this week. Thanks for coming by, guys. Bye.